Hello and welcome back to another Oasys Top Tips. Did you know that Oasys Reporter lets you create variables which can be used to automate reporting analysis results? Variables are essentially placeholders for values that can be used within Oasys Reporter. The value could be a number, for example, the termination time of a model, or a string such as the path to model keyword. Variables can be referenced anywhere within Reporter by using the variable name surrounded by percentage symbols. Here I'm using a template, and you can actually see it's already making use of some of these variables. For example, percentage current page percentage gives the current page, and we've also got total page and the default directory here. You can view, edit, and add to the variables by clicking on the Variables tab, then Edit, and it will show you all the variables available. Some of these are grayed out. These are built-in options which you can't edit. For example, the date that's taken from elsewhere, and the current page, which is updated depending on the page you're on. These other two, default directory and default job, are useful when you are referencing analysis, and particularly when you're doing batch runs. I'll explain how to use these properly shortly. To create a new variable, you simply click on New, give it a name you like, and then a description. You can type in lowercase, but all variables are default sent to uppercase. Then I want to give it a value, so I'll just give it my name. And then you can choose the type of your variable. In this case, it's a string, but supposing it was another option, for example, a file, I then have access to the browse options. I'm just going to set that to string. And then there's this option to set as temporary. And this is useful if you're creating variables that you then want to delete later on, and you can just flag them as temporary, and then when you click OK and OK, you can see it's appeared here. Then there's an option to delete all your temporary variables under the Variables tab. We now want to make use of that variable I've just created, so I'm just going to create a text box down the bottom here. And you can combine variables together, as many as you like, and also with normal text. So I could just say this was created by, and then a little tip here is if you do Control-I, it opens up the variable options and you can insert the one you're after. So in this case, this one I've just made, I'll double click, you can see it's inserted like that. Then I like to give things a sensible name. It's good practice when I'm working in Reporter. I then click OK, and you can see it's now created this text box with my variable. If I'd like to see the variable replaced, then I can go to Presenter View, and all of those percentage variables will be replaced with their actual values. Next, I'm going to show you how variables can be used with linked D3 plot session. So I'll just drag this across and show you my D3 plot session that I've got open. And this is linked here. And this is the Honda Accord model that we're familiar with. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on placeholder 1 and then resize this so it's the same size as the box, and then simply capture. And then what we can see if I expand this now is that we have some use of these variables, default directory and default job, but the jobs file here is hard-coded. And what I suggest you do, particularly if you want to create a template for processing multiple analyses, is copying this string here, the whole thing minus the extension, and then going to variables and updating default directory. And you want to paste that string in here and then cut the file name. And so it's just the folder that the analysis was run in. Save that, and then for default job, edit this, and this is the file base name, which is the file name without the extension in this case. Then going to save that, and close this down. And now when I do the same operation again, I'm going to go back to my D3 plot session. I'm going to change the view around a bit just so we can show it's different. And then I'm going to capture this one here. And what you can see is that it's actually replaced the file name with those variables here. And you can see that in here. So we've got the default directory and the default job. And notice because I had the slash already in there with the default directory, it's actually got these two variables next to each other. So I'll show you what I mean there. So I left the slash in the end. You could remove that if you wanted, and it would then insert a slash into the job file name. And that's really useful because then whenever I go and create something from this particular model and then save this template, it can be used on other models by simply updating and changing these default directories and default job names, rather than having to go through and manually change them all. I can then also make use of some of these variables. So for example, I might want to go to the master page here and add in a variable here which just tells me the name of the model. So Control I again, and I've got the default job, and I'll double click that and just say job name here. Okay, and then I'll just make that bold and a little bit bigger just so it's easier to see. And so now when I go in presenter mode, you can see the Honda Accord name there. So I'll just move that across so it fits a bit better. There we go. So that's how variables can be used within Oasys Reporter, and there are lots of different things you could do. You could customize comments on different models. You could make these captions have variables in them so that they could describe what you were seeing here. And variables are just the way of essentially having placeholders for values, text and numbers that you want to use within your report session.